Yvonne Smith
is now joining.
Does it look like we have a quorum?
I'm showing 9, but I'm not sure I have everyone, Becky or Bev. There's phone numbers there, and I don't know if that's members or not.
All right.
That's Yvonne. I'm Yvonne. I'm on the phone.
Okay.
And this is Buddy. I'm on the phone as well. It's the 502-417 number.
Okay. Yeah, I have you, Buddy. And I have Yvonne. Who's the 600-0267 number?
That's
502-6. Who?
That's Yvonne.
Oh, that's Yvonne. What about the 502-883-8172?
883-8172 is Annie Anderson.
Oh, Ann, okay. Looks like we need one more for a quorum.
All right. Adrian Bush just came in, but she's not on the committee.
No.
This is Christina Espinosa, formerly Bard. Just want to make sure you have me on there.
I sure do, Christina. Thank you. Let me make certain I haven't left anyone off. Oh, David Algood is on there, so we do have a quorum now, Bev.
All right.
I missed over David. Sorry, David.
Welcome everyone to the January Housing Policy Advisory Committee. So I confirm that we had a quorum. Was a press release sent out?
Yes, ma'am, it has.
All right. If everybody could go around the room and introduce themselves. The last meeting I did, I kind of liked how it was done. One person picked the next person, so it kept a little bit of order in the room. So I'll start. My name is Bev Merrill. I'm from Covington, Kentucky. I work at a Welcome House, an agency that serves people who are homeless, and I'm the urban homeless representative. I'll call on Dave Crayer. You're muted, Dave.
Read my lips. Okay. Dave Crayer, People's Self-Help Housing, Lewis County, Kentucky, and represent rural nonprofits. Becky Rorick.
Hi, I'm Becky Rorick. I work with River City Housing. We're a nonprofit housing developer, urban developer here in Louisville, Kentucky, and I will call on Dave Allgood.
Good afternoon, everyone. David Allgood with the Center for Accessible Living, and I'm a proxy for Melanie Piazza, and I will call on Christina Espinosa.
Thanks, Dave. Hi, I'm Christina Espinosa. I'm with the Human Development Institute, or the University Center on Disability for the state of Kentucky, and I work in universal design and assistive technology. And I will call on Lana Brewer, sorry.
No, you were right the first time. It's Lona. Hi, this is Lona Brewer with the Energy and Environment Cabinet. I'm proxy for Secretary Goodman. I actually work for the Office of Energy Policy, and I will call on, oh geez, let me see here. I'm missing people. Hold on. Adrienne Bush.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Bush. I'm the Executive Director of the Homeless and Housing Coalition of Kentucky, and I can't see who to call on next. I'm sorry. On Teams, I have a hard time.
Had trouble too.
Yeah, I was afraid you were going to call on me.
Maybe with somebody with a phone number. Let's see.
This is Yvonne Smith. I can chime in.
There. Thank you.
I'm Yvonne with One West. We are a community development corporation located in West Louisville, and I live in Louisville. Can my other phone buddy chime in?
Trying to see who that is.
Well, if they're referencing me, this is Buddy Kittle. I'm with Stockton Mortgage. I'm past president of Mortgage Bankers Association of Kentucky and Louisville, and currently chair the legislative committee for the Mortgage Bankers regional manager, I say, with Stockton Mortgage.
I can go next. I'm Kathy Figglestaller. I'm the proxy for Commissioner Dennis Keene at the Department for Local Government.
Welcome. Did we miss anybody?
Yeah, this is Zach. Oh, sorry. This is Zach Worsham with Winterwood Incorporated.
Wilma Kelly with Favorable Housing and Development Corporation.
Mary Crowley Schmidt.
Anderson.
Go ahead, Ann.
Go ahead.
Mary Crowley Schmidt with the Bluegrass Area Development District Area Agency on Aging.
Ann Anderson, Louisville Metro Housing.
Logan Haynes, Kentucky Manufactured Housing Institute.
Welcome.
Wayne Trudeau, Buy a Build, invited speaker.
Anybody else?
Dean Lloyd, Kentucky Transportation Cabinet.
I'm Olivia McCowan. Oh, Olivia McCowan with Home Builders Association of Kentucky.
Ashley Runyon, Office of Energy Policy.
There are a few of us from KHC. I'm Wendy Smith, Deputy Executive Director of Housing Programs here at Kentucky Housing.
And I'm Winston Miller, Executive Director for Kentucky Housing Corporation.
Kelly Reynolds.
Kay McAfee, Housing Programs and Policy Administrator for KHC.
Kelly Reynolds.
Go ahead, Kelly.
It's all right. Go, Curtis.
Curtis Stoffer, Managing Director, Housing Contract Administration for KHC.
Kelly Reynolds, I'm Assistant Director in Single Family Development for Housing Contract Administration at KHC.
Carla Hale, Executive Assistant.
And I'm Phyllis Parker.
Anyone else? All right. Well, welcome everyone. We've all introduced ourselves, but we have 3 new members for this month. Mike Turner, who is the Executive Director of the Housing Authority of Burkesville. Olivia Crow McCowan, who's the Public Affairs Director for the Home Builders Association. And Yvonne, I'm sorry, let me pull this up. Yvonne Smith. I've lost my little crib sheet notes. Yvonne, can you introduce yourself? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm Yvonne Smith with One West. We are a community development corporation located in West Louisville.
And it sounds like there's some really innovative things going on there.
Absolutely. We're very excited about the mixed-use development that we're doing. And also we have 2 accelerators. One is called the Plan Room, where we're doing minority and women-owned construction business capacity building. And then we also have the accelerator that we have in partnership with Chef Space off of South 18th Street. And that's the beginning of the row houses, where we're providing the first retail experience for chefs that are graduating out of the incubator into our accelerator. And then also 1 unit we're holding for a local restaurant owner that would like to grow and expand in their retail operation.
All right. Next, if everyone could take a moment to review the minutes, read over them, and then after you've done that, if someone would be willing to make a motion to approve them.
I move to approve the minutes. Mary Carla Schmidt.
Is there a second?
David Allgood, I'll second it.
I think we have 2 people. Did you get somebody, Carla?
Yes, I did. Who made the motion? I didn't catch that.
Is now joining.
Bev, who made the motion?
I did not. There. Did you get that, Carla? All right.
Yes, thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion carries then. We have a few presentations now. We had talked at our last meeting and manufactured housing had come up as a topic. So we have Logan Haynes, who's the executive director of the Manufactured Housing Institute, and he's going to share some information with us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Let me figure out how to share my screen here. Sorry, I'm the guinea pig. Assuming it's just the open share tray, but that's not, nothing pops up there.
No help.
So the share button is right next to the end call or leave button.
Oh, I see. Hang up, hide participants, show conversation, raise hand, more actions.
Keep going to the right, camera, mic, and then share.
Camera, mute, open share tray, which I'm doing that, and nothing is there.
Huh.
Sorry, guys. I don't know if you want to skip me and come back while I try to figure this out. Sorry.
No, we can do that. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, Molly, I've given him control to share, but he couldn't send me the presentation because it was too large. So that's why I'm not controlling the slides. It's too large it wouldn't send yesterday.
All right, we'll see if we can figure it out. I may log out and log back in.
Okay, we'll move on to James Casper, who's the founder of Buy a Build.
So I am sitting in on James' behalf. Unfortunately, he is a family matter overseas, so he's dealing with that. So my name is Wayne Trudeau, and I work with James. I'm the Chief Sales Officer. The company is based in Boca Raton, Florida, but I am in Maryland. So what I was asked to do today was to discuss with prefab houses or panelized houses the sustainability goal and some of the optimal outcomes that we can hope to achieve through this technology. So one of the things I wanted to do is prefab houses or panelization is more about a construction method than it is a style or a model. Sometimes when people hear about, oh, prefab, that means you have to choose between 2 or 3 designs, and you're kind of forced into a selection of models. That's really not the case. Certainly with Buy a Build, we build right across the spectrum from affordable right through to luxury homes. Really, what it is instead of building from the ground up on site, different parts of the house are pre-constructed in controlled environments and factory environments. So each part of the house, as I mentioned, is constructed. So walls, floor joists, roof panels, insulation that come within the walls, cutouts for windows and door specs. All of that is done in, as I say, a factory control environment and then shipped for assembly really on site. So when we look at a goal of sustainability, we focus on, what to cut down, right? So we want to cut down on consumption, we want to cut down on waste, we want to cut down on labor, and we want to cut down on time, and time is money, right? And all of those help allow us to deliver an affordable product. One of the other things that I'm going to touch on today, which is we see it basically in the majority of conversations that we have with entities throughout the country. We're in 13 states, going on 15 states here in the next couple of months, but is just the problem of restricted resources, restricted land, and the labor supply. Right, the trades in the construction industry are shrinking. The average age is well above 50, and it doesn't seem like the new millennial generation are backfilling the trades. So they're basically, focusing on the highest return that they can get in their marketplace, and that is driving costs up, and is putting a real strain on affordable or workforce housing, because it's just not as profitable to do that as being in more of the luxury market. So the cut downs are consumption, waste, labor, and time. And so how do we approach that, right? How do we focus our design or our construction methodology to allow for those cut downs? So we look at it in a three-prong approach: design, materials, and process. So
Wayne, I'm sorry. Wayne, I'm doing the slides. If I'm going too fast or you need me to stop, let me know. You sent over a presentation, so I'm trying to follow your conversation.
Okay. Yep. And that's a lot of the presentation is background information on who we are, what we stand for as a company, some of our clients that we've worked with in partnerships, some of the market information that you've got there on Forbes and on the housing and basically kind of the overview that I covered. So is not necessarily specific to that, but yes, you can keep rolling through there. So those are the 13 states we're currently in. When we talk about design, we're talking about controlling the in-factory process, right? So we optimize design in order to allow for efficient production of materials, right? So in the design, we are looking to optimize, a smaller footprint, for example. We're looking to allow for, with more simple roof designs or more optimized roof designs, we allow for different materials that can be used. If we're working in parts of the country that have specific, what I would say is challenges, then we're looking at design to allow for materials to address those challenges. So the materials segment, which I just segued into, is basically we're looking to provide for the most efficient and when I say efficient, again, we're trying to reduce consumption, right? Consumption in terms of consumption of resources, right? So consumption of heat and consumption of cooling by using materials that we build a more tight home, by using those materials to have a higher R factor and windows with a substantial UV to allow the home to function right more efficiently. And then process, which is the third pillar we look at, is time, labor, and cost accountability. So because we take away upwards of 80% of the skilled trades on site, we can very much control the labor and cost accountability and time accountability, because we are doing it in a controlled environment, and we control that environment, right? So we're not as subject to outside factors or influences. So we actually just came back from the mayor's conference in DC, the winter conference, and it was very interesting to learn how some of the products that we're building, and on the screen right now, that's a project that we did in Millersburg, Kentucky, with Community Ventures, and the walls on that particular house went up in 1 hour and 8 minutes. So we put the whole skeleton of the house up in just over a day. So when we talk about, you know, controlling or cutting down consumption, waste, labor, there's the labor component. In terms of waste, with the materials being prepped and cut and stamped in a controlled environment and then shipped, instead of dumpsters that are cleaned every month, or we measure our waste in trash cans. So we are typical waste that happens on a construction site using stick frame is 30 to 40%. We're down below 0.5%, because all of the cutting happens in a controlled environment and with computerized systems and stamped, so it comes together like a Lego build, really just assembly on site. And so the interesting thing with assembly on site, we talked about waste, we talked about now is the labor component, because most of the cut and measure and happens in a controlled environment. When it gets to the site, we don't need any more than a GC or a foreman as a skilled laborer, and then the rest of the labor that can put the house up, like in the case in Millersburg, was semi-skilled or green labor. So the other nice thing, or nice component with that is typically we can train that labor force of semi-skilled or green in 2 to 3 hours to put up the homes that we build. And so what this allows for is, you know, when we look at some of our rehousing projects or projects that we're considering doing for homeless, we are empowering a new group of workers to be able to piece together the homes, assemble the homes, because there's no skill or there's very little skilled labor requirement involved. So, you know, we're working with programs like Youth Build to come in and help assist in putting up these homes. So getting the community to in different ways and focus to reintegrate and to learn a new skill set, apply that skill set, and really, you know, have the opportunity to become leaders in the community and achieve sustainability that way as well. So I know my time is about 15 minutes. So the last what I want to talk about was materials. So with our panelized housing, and we can hit that, if you can click on that, build in a day, if that works, you'll see it go up. But with our panelized housing, our production is 5 times faster. We talked about the reduction in labor cost, the reduction in material waste, and then our R values. So how efficient the homes are. We're achieving R values of 30 plus in the walls. We're achieving R values of 50 plus in the ceiling. So these are all net zero ready homes. With the application of solar, they can be homes that are off the grid and fully net zero. So and we're able to do all that and see those efficiencies and see that tightness of a home and still achieve an affordable housing price. So I guess in summary, with the current market conditions that I've mentioned in terms of the labor force and the skilled labor force shrinking and not really backfilling, and then trying to achieve the sustainability goals of reducing consumption, reducing waste, reducing labor. So it takes us, as you can see, this house went up walls and the traditional truss roof system in a day. So reducing labor, and of course that equals a time saving. So as I mentioned, I was at the mayor conference in DC. Affordable housing and rehousing for homeless was a very, very big topic. We met with probably 40 mayors interested in our process and how we are able to achieve a quality product at an affordable price. And as I say, with a sustainable goal of cutting down consumption, waste, labor, and time. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer, but that's the way we approach the building process, and sustainability is really part of our DNA.
I have a question. How
Go
safe
ahead.
are they from weather?
I'm sorry, I missed that. How from weather?
How safe are they with weather? Like, here in Kentucky, we have, one week we can have tornadoes, and then the next week we can have ice storms and heavy snow. So
yes.
How efficient and safe are they with those and flooding?
Yep. So vary. So we build to international building standards, and our homes we built for actually Category 6 hurricane conditions, if you will, in the Bahamas. Typically, our homes are Category 5, and because of the insulation that happens within the manufacturing process, so we're looking at a house that uses SIP panels. What happens is it's structured. SIP is for structured insulated panels, and the insulation goes in the production of the SIP panel, right? So it's not cut on site. So we limit the amount of cuts and penetrations on site, and we have spans that run much bigger than we run 8-foot spans, 6-foot spans. Again, we look at it that way. So they're much bigger. So the house is stronger. And as I mentioned, the R values to maintain cool or heat, depending on where you are in the country and depending on what time of the year. So all to answer, yeah, it's a significantly better technology to address the extremes that you're talking about.
So it would be sturdy with wind. I mean, real sturdy. I mean, I'm thinking, I go back to like last year when we went from, or 2 years ago when we went from tornadoes in one part of the state to floods and winter weather in the middle of that. So that's just my concern
Yes.
as far as replacement costs on all that stuff whenever you got to have to replace it also.
Yes, you're 100% right. So the technology that we showed for the Millersburg house is estimated to be by the SIP manufacturing industry 15 times stronger than traditional construction. 15 times.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. That'll work. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How does the cost compare to a traditional stick-built home?
Well, so as we mentioned, the real savings happen from material waste, where it's traditionally 30 to 40% in stick build. We're under 0.5%. Time to put it up. So I'm sure you guys have had projects, but I'm gonna go conservative and say, traditional stick build framing can take 3 months all the way to 9 months, depending on the size of the house and what you're looking at. So we save a lot on how quickly the house goes up, because it gets obviously pre-constructed in controlled environments and then shipped. and then the labor force that is needed to put the house up. So we're eliminating about 80% of the trades. So basically, when we work with GCs, the labor is for assembly. So there may be one skilled or two skilled laborers maximum, and the rest are volunteers or green labor. So there's another savings in that. So we are generally about 30 to 40% less expensive than traditional construction, all things being equal. When I say all things, the same quality of materials, consistent in either house, from flooring to appliances, et cetera, et cetera.
This is Yvonne Smith. I want to just give you guys a firsthand experience. I've done in a single-family housing community where we did 17 homes, half of them with the prefab manufactured right there in town, and half of them with stick-built. Granted, it was 20 years ago, but all those houses are still up and looking gorgeous. I will tell you, when you speak about eliminating 80% of the trades, we have to understand what that means in regard to the subcontractors that have been working in those trades and what that could mean for them. If we're adding additional new housing development and to the mix, and there's still an opportunity for those trades to get a significant amount of work, then this is viewed as a positive. When it comes to these homes replacing those stick-built houses and those GCs and traditional subs, then we got a hell of a backlash from the construction trade association. So I just want to put that out there so that we're thinking about that in advance of looking at this. And then we also had some challenges on time. Even with the manufacturer being right in the same city, we had some challenges on time from the manufacturing plant and their ability to get materials and be able to meet large orders. And so I have had the experience of setting 5 homes in a day, and I've also had the experience of having an individual home shipped at the same time that we started a stick build. So we have to just start thinking through how we want to move, or how we can move into this area without negatively impacting people who have invested a significant amount of time, energy, and talent in their existing construction businesses that are doing stick-built housing. I love the prefab home. It's done well. Like I said, we're 20 years later. I'd be happy to invite any of you all to tour the communities that we've done with the prefab homes, because like I said, we've done it in North Carolina. They've held up fine, but there is the issue of jobs that we're eliminating and businesses that could be replaced. So just think about that, please.
Bev, it looks like we're circling back to Logan. He's ready to present his portion on manufactured homes. Yeah.
All right. And if we have time at the end, we can circle back around for more questions.
Thanks, everybody, for the opportunity.
Becky, I saw your hand go up, and we're going to, I believe, circle back on more questions. See here.
Can you guys see my screen this time?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Perfect. Great. Well, again, thank you guys for having me. It took a reboot of Microsoft Teams, and we're all good. So, again, my name is Logan Haynes. I am the Executive Director of the Kentucky Manufactured Housing Institute. We represent all the various segments of the manufactured housing industry, from manufacturers that build the homes, installers that install the homes, lenders, retailers, community owner, park owners, insurance companies, you name it. If they've got anything to do with manufactured housing, we represent them. So one of the things that I want to talk to you guys about today is just, kind of get rid of some of the negative perceptions when it comes to manufactured housing. Now, I came from a site-built background. I was a builder in Western Kentucky for several years. And I can tell you, from my experience, from my old perception, what I thought of manufactured housing. So I guess that's my question for you all. What is your all's perception of manufactured housing? If you don't want to come off mute and say, that's perfectly fine. But I guarantee a lot of things are running through your mind right now. Things like cheap, things like lesser quality, things like tornado, attractors or what have you. And all of those things I completely understand. None of it's anything that I haven't heard before. If you're being really nice and you're thinking, well, they're affordable and they're regulated and all that stuff, that's great. Really appreciate those thoughts. For those of you that have no idea, maybe this is what you were thinking. Hopefully you guys can hear this sound.
We can't hear it.
Well, dang. So it's a funny commercial, really is what it is, that dives into all the negative stereotypes of manufactured housing. And that's just what they are. They're stereotypes. We just had our home show this past week. Several of you were actually came and looked at these homes. So I'm going to ask you to kind of dive in a little bit and give your thoughts. But just some of the negative perceptions about manufactured housing. 18 million Americans live in factory-built homes, which is a ton. And that is increasing. Our market share is increasing daily. Some of those negative perceptions, again, rightfully earned, come from the old mobile homes. Now, by regulation, a mobile home has not been built since 1976. So there's no more mobile homes being built. What you see now are manufactured homes. We're going to talk about some of that. Mobile is actually a misnomer, the term mobile home. 90% of these homes, once they're set, they never move again. They stay exactly where they are. And of course, popular culture, has reinforced this stereotype. Trailer Park King TV shows and you name it, trailers for sale or rent. We can go back that far, however far back you want to go. This perception has been in existence for a long time, and none of these things are reflective of what our industry actually is today. This one, you don't have to have sound to be able to appreciate. So these are manufactured homes. These are not modular homes. These are not prefab homes in the sense of the last presentation. These are homes that come in sections. They drive down the road and they're put together, and this is what you get. So a lot of these, we just had our home show, and I don't take my wife there because she's going to want to remodel our house. So we don't go there. So that being said, what I've got on the screen now are just two pictures. And I'm going to go through a few of these. And if you guys can come off mute, some of you, that would be great. I just want you to tell me which one is site built and which one is a manufactured home. Which one do you think? Which one do you think is site built?
Hard to tell.
So the one on the right is actually the manufactured home. And you'll notice some things in there. You'll notice sheetrock walls. You'll notice ceramic tile behind the stove. You'll notice the coffered ceiling, 9-foot walls. Again, that's a manufactured home. The one on the left is the site built. What about this one? Which one's site built? Which one is a manufactured home?
The one on the right is manufactured.
They're actually both manufactured, so I tricked you just a little bit. A lot of people think that because, it looks a little bit simpler. The one on the left has the big shower and the tub. There's no way you could put that in a manufactured home. It's not at all true. So both of these are actually manufactured homes. So one of the big questions we get is, well, what about the exterior? That's where a lot of communities push back and they say things like, well, it looks like a trailer. It looks like a mobile home. So let me ask you this. Which one of these is manufactured? Which one of these is site built? The one on the right is actually the manufactured. The one on the left is a site built home. So a lot of people think, well, you can't put brick on a manufactured home. if the local community wants brick, if the local municipality, if the planning and zoning ordinances dictate that it should have brick, as you can see on the right, we can do brick. That's not an issue. What about this one? So the one on the left is actually a site built, and you can say, well, that was easy because I see that vinyl underpinning on the one on the right. The one on the left was actually a home in Louisville that was for sale back a couple months ago that was fixed up, and then it was priced out of the affordable distinction. So, it started as an affordable home. The one on the right is a brand new home, sheetrock walls. And again, if you wanted the block around the bottom of it, that's no problem. They would do that on site. But it's a brand new home. You can see the steep pitch roof. I'll show you how that's done if that's something that your community wants. But it is an affordable home. It does have that affordable home distinction. Both of these are manufactured homes. Again, not modular. We're going to talk about what the difference is. These are manufactured homes that come in. The one on the right comes in 2 pieces, and then the garage is built there on site. The one on the left is also, the one on the left is actually 3 pieces and put together. So again, just by looking at them, you can't tell that they're a manufactured home. And so what I try to tell people now all the time is a manufactured home is not a product. A manufactured home is a process. It's built in a controlled environment. If I were going to buy a car, I wouldn't want that car built out in a field. I'd want it built inside. Your home is no different. These homes will never have rain on their subfloor and soak into that moisture, causing your floor to creak over time, causing waves in your floor, things like that, causing potential mold. You'll never have that with a manufactured home. So just kind of going back, and I'm going through this kind of fast just because of the time limit here, but just kind of some terms that matter. Again, trailers, mobile homes, manufactured homes, are all those terms synonymous? And truth is they're not. A trailer is for travel purposes. A mobile home, again, was built prior to 1976. And then you have a manufactured home, which is built since 1976. And 1976 is impactful, and it's important because that's when HUD stepped in. The manufactured housing industry is regulated by the HUD code, so it's built to a federal standard. That HUD code is updated continuously. Again, coming from someone who was a site builder, I remodeled a lot of houses that were 5 or 6 inches out of square. Nobody ever knew. A manufactured home, if it's a 1/4 inch out of square, it's going back to the factory. So the quality that these homes are built to is much, much greater. So you've got a mobile home that was built pre-76. You've got a manufactured home that's built since 76 that's regulated by the HUD code. And then you have a modular home. We represent the modular home industry as well. And a modular home is built to the local code. Now, that being said, what's the difference? What's the difference now between a modular local building code and a HUD code? There's very, very little difference. A modular home, and several of you that were at our home show last week saw this. You can have a modular home that is built, gorgeous looking home, steep pitch roof, 2x6 exterior walls, insulated to the 10th degree. All of these features that you would look for in a site built home, you can see that in a modular home. Well, a manufactured home can be the same exact home. The only difference is under the home. A modular home sets on the perimeter foundation and on piers, whereas a manufactured home, it's engineered to where all that weight is transferred back to underneath the home to those piers. Same exact product, built to stricter standards as a manufactured home, but it's about 15 to 30% less. So the question is, well, why would you ever buy a modular home then? The biggest reason is because of perception. Again, you could pull up to a site and see a modular home, see a manufactured home, and not be able to tell them apart anymore. That wasn't the case 5 years ago, wasn't the case 10 years ago, but it's the case today. There is no difference when you look at that home. The only way you can tell is by crawling under the home. And the other component of that is a manufactured home in the state of Kentucky has to be installed by a certified installer. Uncle Danny, who watched YouTube a couple of times, can't jump on a job site and say, well, I'm going to set up this mobile home. Doesn't work that way. A manufactured home has to be installed by a state certified installer. That certified installer has to take multiple tests. They have to show proficiency. They have to take 5 hours of continuing education in manufactured housing every year to be familiar with updated codes and regulation. So those are the primary three categories that we talk about: mobile home, manufactured home, and modular home. There's a relatively newer, not new, but newer term. That's a qualified manufactured home. That's something that our state legislature adopted back in 2002. It's affixed to a permanent foundation, which now all manufactured homes are affixed to a permanent foundation. It's a state requirement. All of them are going to sit on a concrete foundation that goes down to the frost depth, no different than a site-built home. The difference is every one of our new homes are going to be inspected by the state. Inspections for site-built homes can vary based off of county. So, these are actually inspected even more. Has at least a width of 20 feet, so it's got to be a multi-section unit or 2 stories tall. We can do 2-story units. So if it's a urban infill that you need a 2-story unit, we can certainly do that. Has to be at least 900 square feet and can't be located in a land lease community. So those are terms to familiarize yourself. But the whole reason we're talking about this, the affordable housing crisis is very real. We feel like we can be a very, very good solution to this affordable housing crisis. Fayette County back in 2015, they were short 6,600 household units and they couldn't find housing within their means. Since then, 400 units every year have gone out of commission. In other words, builders buy these homes, developers buy these homes, they fix them up, they price them outside of the affordable distinction. So presents several challenges. With 1.2% projected growth, Fayette County needs 1,700 new homes a year. In 2018, that's the latest data that we've got, only 1,200 were built. So they're significantly going in the holes. And all of the cities across the Commonwealth can say very, very similar stories. Louisville looked at subsidizing. It was going to cost them $3.5 billion to try to address the affordable housing crisis in Louisville. And so that's where you enter in nonprofits and things like that. So we're an unsubsidized industry. We're a private industry. And more and more people are turning towards us. More and more people are looking at our industry as a solution, not just for an affordable home, but for a quality home that anybody can live in. Since 2008, new manufactured homes have actually outpaced site-built homes by nearly 30%. 59% of people that live in those homes are under the age of 50. 41% are over the age of 50. 78 million millennials, if you think about this, are potential first-time home buyers. Now you have Gen Z coming into the marketplace as well that are skewing that number even more for millennials and Gen Zs. 72 million baby boomers are still downsizing, primarily cash buyers. And so you have this affordable housing crisis that is now being exacerbated even more by 2 segments that are needing affordable homes. So the problem is only going to get worse. And so there are things that our industry is doing to address this, but do so in a way that a local municipality can go, I'm okay with that being in our neighborhood. I'm okay with that being in our city or our municipality. One of those things is what's called MH Advantage. And I know you guys can't hear this, but basically what it is, Fannie and Freddie Mae have come up with a product or come up with a distinction called MH Advantage or cross-mod. Now, cross-mod actually stands for cross-modern. It's not a modular home. It's still a HUD code home, still coming down the road in sections and erected there on site. But the goal is when you pull in the driveway, you can't tell that it's not a site-built home. It's got a higher pitch roof. It's put on permanent foundations. It has the perimeter block skirting or the block perimeter. It's got all the energy efficiency standards. It has to have a garage or a carport. It has to have drywall throughout. And with those products, they actually allow for site-built comps as a primary, not as a secondary component like you do with traditional manufactured housing. Now, I would also tell you that you're allowed for 30-year traditional financing. Our industry has come so far; they're allowing that for traditional manufactured homes as well. a depreciation in value is not the case anymore. If it's maintained, no different than a site-built home needs to be maintained to appreciate in value. So there's been some major changes there as well. So you can see one of these homes being built here. Clearing of the ground. This is actually done in Tennessee. So the footers aren't quite as deep as what you would have here in Kentucky. Kentucky, they would be 24 inches deep. But you can see section coming down the road. See the roof has a little bit of a slope, and then it slopes back relatively quick. That's called a hinge roof system. They'll place the home, lay the home down. And when you see that block skirting, like you do right there, in most cases, that's purely cosmetic on a manufactured home because of how these homes are engineered. That's the hinge roof system where you see getting that roof elevation, and then the garage is built on site. So they actually built a subdivision of those in Tennessee, and in Russell Springs, Kentucky here, a subdivision was also built with those. So, this is being utilized more and more as a solution for the affordable housing crisis, but again, it's something that a local municipality can get behind. Now, does that mean that, if you're driving down the road and you see a 4-corner single wide home or a single section home, well, is that still us? Yes, that's still us. But the difference between what that single section is today versus what that single section is 5 years ago, today, that home is going to be inspected twice by a state inspector. 5 years ago, that wasn't the case. So in the case of the question earlier about tornadoes and flooding, it's going to be installed and placed on that land to a more stringent regulation than what a site-built home is going to be placed in. You look at per capita and where most of these homes are sent and set up, the number one state in the union is Florida. You think about the number of hurricanes that happen in Florida, they're just used to it. Well, you don't hear those communities disappearing every hurricane they have. Our homes are built to that standard. And now they're installed to that standard as well. So the solution is certainly there. When you look at the cost there again, average cost of a manufactured home is $70,600. Compare that to $286,000 for a site-built home. And so, the pricing is there, the affordability is there, the attainability is there. One of the things that we're, trying to push in these local municipalities is if you've got an older, dilapidated home, that's our worst enemy too. Those older, dilapidated homes are the reason that when you have a storm, the weatherman tells you if you're in a mobile home, go to a ditch. That a ditch is safer than your home. That's not the case anymore. So we want these local municipalities to help us replace those, because when that home was originally placed, zoning and those ordinances relaxed. Now they've increased the zoning and the ordinances for that community to the point that homeowner can't replace their home. They can't do anything about it. So they're stuck in that dilapidated home because they may not be able to afford a site-built home. The other thing is update zoning ordinances. That's what we're pushing around the Commonwealth. Don't rule out manufactured housing as a product. Tell us what it is that you're looking for in a manufactured home. Tell us you want a steep pitch roof. Tell us you want brick on the front. Tell us you want it to be, a shotgun style or tell us, whatever the cosmetic things that your community cares about. Tell us those, and we now have the availability to build those homes now. I can show you, I'll just kind of talk over it. This past week, we actually had a legislative reception at our home show. We had about 20 legislators come in from Kentucky, and they toured these homes. Some of them, are realtors in their day job, and the comments that were received for this were impactful. It was comments of, I'll take 10 of these tomorrow. You can see in this picture right here, you can see the variances and the flexibility and the versatility that we've got in our industry. But it's not the industry that it was. And so we need your all's help to kind of help promote that. Again, if you need the affordable, 4-corner home that is $40,000, but, is still energy efficient, that still, qualifies for the Energy Star rating, which most of our homes do now. The days of drafty windows are over. The days of the 2x3 exterior walls, those are over. There's no longer a mobile home aisle at Lowe's and Home Depot because it's the same outlet, it's the same refrigerator, it's the same dishwasher, it's the same 2x4 or 2x6 exterior walls that are on your site-built home. There's no difference. So it begs the question, well, what makes you cheaper? Similar to what the last presenter was talking about, one is the efficiency of when these homes are built. These homes are built in such a way that, when a 2,200 square foot home is built, there, all of the waste fits in a 55-gallon trash can. Every bit of the waste for that home fits in a 55-gallon trash can. If it's a smaller house, it's even less. So that's one component of it. The other component is the buying power. Each one of these manufacturers that deal in Kentucky are building anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 homes per year. I was a site builder. 6 homes in a year was a really, really good year for my company. So if a manufacturer that is building 2,000 to 4,000 homes in a year goes to buy a 2x4, they're of course going to get a better deal for it than what I am when I build 6 homes. A lot of these manufacturers own their own lumber yard. They own their own mill to where they're actually manufacturing these things themselves. So you've got the buying power. A lot of them are manufacturing their own windows and doors and things like that. So, the buying power is there, the efficiency is there, but the quality remains. And the quality has improved drastically. Like I say, just in the past 5 years, it's really, really impressive. So with that, I know I'm getting close on my time. I'm going to open it up to questions. And I know several of you were actually at our home show last week. Kay, Mona, Wendy, Winston, I know you guys were all there. If you guys want to chime in, let you speak up about what you saw. That's going to do more diligence than me selling my own industry.
Well, Logan, I will just say that the biggest thing you framed for me when we were walking through the different homes at the show was to distinguish process from product. And that's sort of what the Buy You Build presenter before you also talked about. Like, this is a process for bringing homes to market. It doesn't necessarily mean it's any one type of home. And there has been a lot of stigma, some of it earned, some of it residual on manufactured housing. But a lot of the units we looked at were spacious with really nice finishes. And it all kind of depends on what price point you're after, to bring it to market. But I was very impressed with the designs and the variety of kind of footprints and what the houses could look like.
Logan, I'll simply echo what Wendy's had to say about that, and not repeat what she said, but a lot of very impressive products and a lot of variety in terms of if the goal is a economically produced product that doesn't have some of the appearance factors that a lot of people place a premium on, you still can produce that fairly economically. And if you have the luxury of wanting the pitch and the roof and all the other factors that are very aesthetically pleasing, then you have that option too. So there are options out there that are that do provide economies of that did not previously exist.
Thank you very much.
Logan, this is David Allgood. I'm a quadriplegic. I use a power wheelchair to get around. And how easy or would the industry start making these homes wheelchair accessible? As you mentioned, you got a bunch of aging baby boomers with a lot of money, and the likelihood that they will acquire disability as they age is very high. It may not always be a physical disability, but a lot of instances it is. Or if you're like myself, if anyone's going to have anything in neighborhood party in my neighborhood, it's going to be coming to my house because I'm the one with the accessible house. Everyone else has at least 1 or 2 steps to get in their domicile. So what if the industry start looking, or Kentucky or you all, to start making, if it's possible, the topography allows, and that's just a matter of grading. That should not be hardly any problem to whatsoever ever. Very rarely, let's put it that way. To start making these homes visitable to people who have mobility impairments like myself. So even if I'm not going to buy the house or purchase the house, I can go visit my neighbor once the house is built, and it doesn't have 2 or 3 steps, and it might have a 5-foot turning radius and 1 first floor base or bathroom and a little bit wider hallway. Just some universal design features or just visitable features where, there's a 0-step threshold entrance, a wider turning radius and 1 bathroom, and where that I can get around. So, I mean, it seems like it's a no-brainer to me, again, as the aging baby boomers are going to need some of these issues built into their homes. And you got a lot of people that acquire disability, and then they got to get a second mortgage instead of pay off the 30-year mortgage. And even if it can be remodeled, it's going to cost them another second mortgage. So, what is the industry looking about that? I think it's a good thing to start looking at universal design for all these homes, so that even if I don't build the house, I can come visit you.
And Christina in the chat box had some similar questions.
Sure. Yeah. So as far as, ADA goes, everything in these homes is a line item, on an invoice, right? The versatility that is within these homes comes down to tell us what your dream is. And if it's too much, we'll back down from that dream. All of these manufacturers have an ADA line item that basically one click of a button on the invoice changes the cabinets, changes all the door frames, changes, the vanities to where you can get under the vanities, changes everything to make it ADA compliant. So the industry is there from if you're going to live in these homes and you need ADA access, that is certainly there. The other component is I think if you were to tour some of these homes that are being built now, it's different than what it was. You see the 36-inch front door now as a standard. You see wide open floor plans that if you're visiting these homes, you're going to be able to get around in. So it's more of a focus than it ever has been, as there's still improvements that can be made, absolutely. But I think you would be impressed in what's being offered today.
If I may, just one last comment. I mean, it's easy to click on it if you know what you are, but I acquired my disability when I was 16 when I dove in a pool. Had no idea I was going to need ADA accessible features in a home. It does, everybody on here doesn't have a disability. You're a TAB. You're temporarily able-bodied. You're only an accident or diagnosis away from becoming someone who might need these features. So I might not know to click on the ADA. So maybe if you all reached out to say, hey, we can make this universal, besides making it better for the person with mobility impairment device, you can put that stroller in the house a lot easier with that 0-step threshold entrance, or you can move your furniture in and out of the home a lot easier with that 0-step threshold. No steps to the front porch, because I might be able to move around inside the house, and 90% of the times I can't get to the front door because there's a step or 2 or 3. So, I mean, proactive would be beneficial, I think, for everyone and more inclusive to the whole community as a whole if we can make these things universally designed.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I saw, whether on the website or what someone said, that the average, I think it was on one of the presentations, that the average cost of the home was $70,000.
That's correct. Yeah.
So there's as many below that price point as there are above?
There are, absolutely. Okay. And very, very nice homes at that price. Wendy and Winston and some of the others walked through those, and we talked about pricing of just about all the homes that we walked into. Some of the cross mods that we talked about, the MH Advantage products, are 160 to 170. That have the garage, that have the cosmetic features that a local municipality would want, and it's 2,200 square foot. So there's a lot of price advantages when it comes to this industry without sacrificing quality. Just one other thing, Ashley, I don't know if you want to speak. You were there last week on the energy efficiency of the homes. I can tell you that's a major focus of our industry as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that. I mean, from what I saw anyways and what was expressed to me, we walked through a few homes and had some, very specific questions, and found that a lot of the manufacturers are, ensuring that they're putting in energy efficient insulation, that the window packages are also energy efficient, that they're sealing outside of the windows, finding that there's Energy Star appliance packages that are available. So all of the energy efficiency standards that you would see in stick-built homes are also options in the homes that we were walking through, which was really nice. I think now it's just trying to figure out how we're able to educate better on the importance of including those when people are making their selections, and how we can, potentially leverage funds to ensure that people are getting those options at a reasonable cost to them, so that the actual housing stays affordable. And for me, when I look at affordable housing, I think it's holistic. It's the cost of your bills and, as well as the cost of your, payment for the home itself. But yeah, I was really pleased to see that those options were absolutely available in the homes that we walked through. And a lot of them came standard.
Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah,
Any
just
other
another-
questions?
Yeah, just kind of another quick follow-up. Similarly to David's thoughts around accessibility and options for accessible and affordable housing. We're pushing a lot of ADUs now that we have the ordinance. Are you guys doing much with ADUs, freestanding ones? Are you able to pre-manufacture maybe above garage ADUs as well that can be more universally designed?
We are, yeah. One of the things with our ADUs is they're actually regulated from a construction standpoint. Now, a lot of ADUs are, some of them hit this gray area. We were working with the state legislature they reached out to us to say, what can we do to make sure these things are safe? We want ADUs to be as safe as possible, because even if it's a tiny home or a whatever title you want to give that, a lot of people will associate that with our industry. But there's a lot of, I think of the Amish shed builders that you see, on every corner in most municipalities that are being used as ADUs, but they're not built to any sort of standard. They're not installed to any sort of standard. So yes, we do ADUs. They're going to be built to the HUD code unless you get a modular ADU. And they're going to be installed to state regulation as well. So we are doing more and more of these. There are some, garage ADUs that some of the manufacturers have been doing. Some home ADUs that are really, really impressive as well.
Can I jump
Any
in
other
and
questions?
Jump in and ask a couple of questions? I know we're trying to probably getting short on time, but I guess a couple of different questions that I have. So before COVID, I went to the manufactured housing conference and was very impressed with the quality of what was happening. And I do think it is more and more becoming a model for what can happen in affordable housing. And I'm the director of a affordable housing nonprofit, and we've looked at a couple of different options before. So a couple of questions. One is, I guess to the first presenter, to Wayne, do you have any of your manufacturing plants close to Kentucky? Because I understand that some of there's a good bit of cost in the shipping. And so if there's not something local or close to local, then we run into a lot of additional costs there. And then to Logan, the $70,000 number that you're putting out there, that's for the part that's traveling in, right? Not for the foundation and for the hookups and those kinds of things. So there are, additional costs as part of that, if I'm not correct, right? And then, and I guess one third question, sorry.
Sure.
The other thing, I can see it be much more applicable if you're doing a subdivision or have more space. We do a lot of infill, and I have trouble figuring out how to get a single manufactured house into infill.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, go ahead. No, go ahead. Your question was first.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, so sort of I'm going to answer it in double layered, if you will. So yes, when we're dealing with materials, like for example, we were using a panelized construction as an example. So we would source entities that are close by to really reduce the shipping cost. And again, we're also optimizing, how we package. And so we keep a number of truckloads down to an absolute minimum. So both of those. And then from a procurement standpoint, so we work throughout the country, as I mentioned, 13 states going on 15. So we have a lot of buying power. My colleague was mentioning that as well. The other presenter, that's one of the, we're not specific to one area. So on the one hand, we can be localized and make sure that we're minimizing the transportation costs. But on the other hand, we're using our buying power throughout the country to facilitate materials and achieve the best possible price.
To answer your two other questions, as far as pricing goes, the $70,000, the $40,000, $40,000 to $70,000, depending on which number you're looking at, 40 on the low end, 70 on the average. That does include the setup, and that does include the foundation. What it does not include is the land, driveway, sidewalk, that kind of thing, because it varies. But basically, if you wanted a home set up, connected to utilities, and ready to move in from that standpoint, that price is included. If you have to run electric, 100 yards to get to the home, that obviously would not be calculated in that, or a driveway that goes a quarter mile on a farm, something like that. But set up, installed, that's the averages. So that's one component. The other component is the urban infill. It is my mission in life to get an urban infill in every city across the Commonwealth, because there are so many more options now. If you saw the home in the presentation that had the end entrance, it's 20 foot wide, but it's 80 foot long, and your entrance is in that 20 foot. So, it allows for that urban infill. We've done 2-story shotgun style urban infill. So there's all of these manufacturers now have that sort of setup available, with this end entrance into the home for those narrow lots. And again, in those, if they require the steep roof pitch, if they require a low set to where, they're not, your foundation isn't 3 feet in the air, things like that just, it sticks out as, well, this is a manufactured home. All of those things are now adjustable and can be set to where it looks like it's part of the community surroundings. Any other questions?
This is Lorna Brewer with Office of Energy Policy. Ashley and I work together. I just wanted to say it was very informational for our office. One of the takeaways that we had was it's definitely going to take an educational effort to educate the local communities that this is an affordable, available housing, because most of the communities now, most of the zoning requirements would not allow some of these homes to come in. I know that you guys had a election the day before. I just think it's going to take a lot of education on the part of your industry to make sure that that our communities do understand that it is an affordable option today, and it's not like it was 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yes, thank you so much. And if any of you, listen, I ran through this presentation very fast. I know it's extending time now, but if any of you would like us to present to your special interest groups or any of the stakeholders with you that work with you, I would be more than happy to come and present, bring more pictures, give more detail and regulation, whatever it is that we can educate you on, I'd be more than happy to do.
I also echo that. I had to move through the material kind of quickly. There's also differences in the two presentations. So our modular, our prefab happens in the materials used. So in the case that we were looking at in Kentucky, the build, it was the walls and the roof that happens and then gets delivered and assembled on site. So there's a little bit of difference there. Of course, we have a ton of flexibility and we work in all kinds of markets from luxury to affordable and rehousing and whatnot. So if any other questions or you want more information on our capabilities in affordable, please do not hesitate to reach out, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Just want to do a check, see if you're for me.
Yes, Stacy Epperson, the new mobile home replacement.
Okay, so can you hear me okay as you pull up my slide deck? And can someone confirm, do I still have 15 minutes? Okay. So if we can pull up my slide deck and go to the next, and let me introduce myself. I'm the president and CEO of Next Step Network. We're a national organization that works in factory-built housing. We're national thought leaders, and we do housing across the country. And our mission is sustainable home ownership, and we're not shy. We say we are here to transform the manufactured housing industry. We want it to work better for consumers. We want it to be more energy efficient. We want to make sure consumers get home buyer support and education, that it's affordable, and have access to good and fair loans. Seeing the next slide. So, we all know what the pressures are. And so nationally, we have this supply gap of about 4 million homes, which is putting a lot of pressure on price. Prices have even gone up since I produced this slide. New homes now are almost $400,000. But most Americans can only afford about $225,000. That's kind of the median, right? So that's a big gap. But the only place you can still, nationally get housing costs out that is really to use the factory process to control your home costs. Next slide. So in Next Step, we got our start in Kentucky, okay? So I'm sitting in Louisville, Kentucky. My team sits around the country. And we did one of the first demonstrations for manufactured housing done right in Morehead, Kentucky. And it's really the basis for some of the new programs offered by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to offer good mortgage loans on par with loans for site-built homes because the homes meet a certain quality standard. Next Step has the highest quality standards in the factory-built housing industry. So, Logan talked about this cross-mod approach, this cross-modern that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will finance. Well, Next Steps are just a little bit stricter in a couple of ways. First, I wanted David to know that we incorporated Kentucky Housing's guidelines for universal design in our homes. We did that almost 20 years ago, okay? We also require that our homes meet the Energy Star standard and that they go on the most robust foundation system that the HUD, Federal Housing Agency, requires, so families can have access to like USDA loans, FHA loans, which is a really important part. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share some of the research that's out there and what we see that's really changing. So, if we look at a Freddie Mac study, and I encourage you to go out maybe and look at Freddie Mac's website, because both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, by law, have a duty to serve underserved markets. And manufactured housing is one of those. So they've developed a lot of good resources under their duty to serve programs. So Freddie has found that about 6 in 10 individuals now say they would consider purchasing a manufactured home. And by generation, millennials, 68% of them were likely to purchase a home if you compare that to only 40% of boomers. Now, so something's changing. the youngest generation is more open to manufactured homes or homes built in factories than their previous generations. We think it's somewhat of the HGTV tiny home effect, quite frankly. And they need affordability too, so they're willing to look at it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm going to speed up just a little bit. So one of the things we've done at Next Step is we've partnered with IKEA. They are a national partner, and together we did a national study on home buyer desires, okay? And this may come across as just, what may seem like common sense, but what we did is we really looked at that kind of lower and first-time home buyer and what they were interested in today, especially kind of coming out of COVID, or we were kind of still in COVID when we did it. But what we learned is that buyers are really motivated by their space and how their family interacts in that space and that budget. Some of the headlines, though, for us is that 77% of them were interested in working with a housing expert. And for those of us who provide homebuyer education and support, that's music to our ears, right? But our research also validated that 45% of new homebuyers are interested in factory-built homes. That's a shift upward. Also, energy efficiency was really important for these buyers, and that 3 in 5 were willing to pay up to $2,000 more for energy efficient options. The next slide, please. So Next Step, we worked with IKEA really to set a strategic vision for the next 5 years here at Next Step. And our vision is really having an industry where home buyers, maybe they don't start at that retail lot, but home buyers can shop online. They can go to vibrant, diverse neighborhoods, purchase homes in these neighborhoods that are already built and permanent, and quite frankly, it's a normal process. That they get to work with realtors, that they get to work with lenders, homebuyer educators, all that we do in the affordable housing space, but manufactured homes are in these infield communities, if you will, or these new subdivisions. And the strategies we're working on is continuing to educate and empower home buyers. We're working in policy change in 3 areas: energy efficiency, thought leadership on zoning, okay, and also to make sure that there are good mortgages in the marketplace. We're working on building this new sales ecosystem. So what we need are high-capacity, mission-driven developers to do this work, to build these homes. And Next Step is moving our standard up to zero energy within the next 5 years. Okay, next, please. So some of our policy work, and somehow my slide got a little wonky there. I think it's what I really said a minute ago about the 3 areas in our energy work. So if we can go to the next slide. Okay, so let's talk about energy efficiency a minute. Next Step has been a long time advocate to change the rules for how energy efficient these homes are. So I'm speaking about manufactured only, not modular, and let's look at that very first step. The energy standards have not increased on manufactured homes since 1994, okay? And but Next Step has always had a higher standard than just the current manufactured home, and that was Energy Star. And I would describe this as kind of on par with about the 2018 IECC for the site building folks, okay? It's about 10 to 30% more efficient than just a regular manufactured home. But what's happened, Congress said, okay, Department of Energy, we want you to upgrade the standards on these homes. And we finally got to a final rule. The standards will go into effect May 31st of this year. So thank you for the advocates on the call, because we do policy work at Next Step, and I know I saw Dave Prayer earlier. So kudos for getting that done. And if you can see on the stair steps, that moves us up to about 34% more efficient than the HUD code home, and that's going into effect. So what's happened next is that the EPA now is changing the Energy Star program. And so they've raised the standards. So these steps keep going up, and that's also going into effect May 31st. So that's going to put us over where the HUD code homes are at the very moment to where the new Energy Star program is going. You know, we're beginning to push like 45, 50% more efficient, which is really exciting for what is happening in this field. And next step, we plan to take the next step. We just got the Department of Energy's new grant to prototype the new Energy Star homes with our researchers and our manufacturers around the country. So we'll be sharing that research with those to see if they want to really move into the zero energy space, okay? I've already kind of explained this. If you want to just skip, this is what I was talking about, how we continue to move the bar on manufactured housing to make it more energy efficient. Now, you know, some of these features, I'm not going to go in detail, but because I thought Logan did a great job on explaining how this industry is moving. We have our regular manufactured homes, we have the cross-mod home, then we have the next step home, and then we also have modular. Next step works in all of these areas, both modular and really the high quality manufactured housing with our developer partners across the country. And we did get savings. I would say to you in the California market, we saved 30%, okay? And I think it's a range between 10 and 30%. I would say Kentucky's less so. And I think that's why you see very little of our work here in Kentucky, because there are still organizations here that are site building homes that are used to it, you know, when they put a manufactured home in, you know, they'll get some cost savings, right? Now, it depends on the standard that you're building to. Let me qualify that, right? I'm talking about the highest standard. If you want to go down in standard, you know, that may be a decision for you, but at next step, we keep our standards pretty high. And you can see some of these costs. If you go to the second column, you know, factory-built homes to our standards, the land and the home, those mortgage amounts, this is a typical national average, which may be higher than, I would say, probably some of the costs here in Kentucky, but it's less than site built on national average. Okay, so the next slide. Okay, this always comes up about appreciation, and I just wanted to point to the research because we work with our national partners. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are both partners of ours, and we work closely with the Federal Housing Finance Agency, which has been tracking data to see how manufactured homes perform on appreciation compared to site built. And what they're finding, they perform just as well. Like, that's the headline that you need to know. If it's done right on a mortgage, it's comparable to site built. Okay, next slide. We saw lots of pretty pictures, so, you know, I want to show you another one. I'm really excited about how the industry is kind of catching up and moving to this cross-mod model, doing these higher spec homes, which get better valuation in the marketplace. And this is a great example. Okay, next slide. I just wanted to share one of our recent projects that's under construction now. It's called Kilpatrick Woods. It's in Hagerstown, Maryland. It is a green community. It is certified by Enterprise Communities under the Green Program. It's 241 new homes. It will be all manufactured homes, okay? And in that, all the homes will be Next Step Standard and Energy Star certified. And 10% of these homes, though, are going to meet a higher energy standard. We will be prototyping the new Department of Energy zero energy home, because this project is within a short drive from Washington, D.C. We've got lots of policy stakeholders interested in the work that we're doing. Plus, these 20 homes that we're doing, I would say they're going to be on a spectrum towards zero energy, and we'll be doing some interesting innovations. It's just a project to watch. Okay, next slide. So first I want to thank Kentucky Housing for supporting our policy work, okay, so how that's benefited the state. And since this is a policy committee, I thought we might talk a little bit more about policy. One of the things we did with Kentucky Housing was really work to educate and promote Energy Star homes in our state. And we called this our Smart MH program. And when we got started, less than 1% of homes shipped into Kentucky were Energy Star. The last time I checked, we were at 41% Energy Star. That's amazing, and that's market change. It took a lot of education There were utility companies that provided incentives. There was home buyer education. There were good loans. A lot of people focused on this, and Freddie Mac helped a lot to make that change in the state. In 2021, just for everybody to understand how many new homes came into the state, over 3,800. So you can kind of see the impact of having high Energy Star numbers. I think Energy Star is also another way of getting higher quality because you get 2x6 construction, right? A lot more durable products in the home. And I also wanted you to know that Next Steps holds a position on the HUD Manufactured Housing Consensus Committee. That is the advisory committee to HUD that makes the recommendations to improve the HUD building code for all manufactured homes. So I personally get to do that. So thank you for this work, and we're happy to answer questions.
Stacy Lerner-Brewer with the Office of Energy Policy. What will the average cost of the homes for your project in Maryland? What will those be?
This is a very high cost market because it's so close to the Washington, D.C. Metro area. Right. The range on these homes will be between $200,000 and probably about $290,000, all in everything, land, home, sale.
What is the square footage of those homes?
There's a range on these. They range, I think, probably our average is going to be like starting at 1,200 up to about 2,000 square feet, somewhere in that range.
Okay, thank you. I just want to come and visit.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure who's saying that, but reach out to me and we'll put you on the invite list to come and see. We're going to be holding an open house probably late May, early June with all the stakeholders and policymakers to tour probably the first 4 to 8 homes. And all the infrastructure is under construction right now, along with, I think I showed you the community building. One of the things I'm proud about this project, we have homebuyer educators working, and we've created a preferred lender network that agrees to work with the homebuyer educators. And all the loans will be sold to either Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. They're both participating on the program. I'd like to see this replicated in Kentucky too. So we're doing infill. I know someone asked about ADUs if they want to reach out. We're doing manufactured housing accessory dwelling units in Southern California, if you want to follow that project.
Any final questions for any of the 3 presenters?
This is Lerner-Brewer again. I just want to say I think all 3 of these presentations have been wonderful. I hope our legislators can look at this, look at our disaster areas in Kentucky and see if there are possible ways to incorporate some of this affordable housing for some of our citizens that have basically lost everything.
If I can, we may be running late. I know this says that I was going to do mobile home replacement. I just wanted you to know, under the advocacy side, a new program was created in Congress in the last omnibus bill called PRICE. It's $250 million to upgrade manufactured housing communities, particularly resident-owned communities, and it includes mobile home replacement in communities. It's the first time our national network has been able to get a new federal program for manufactured housing.
That's great. I just want to say thank you, Stacy, and our other presenters. For the comment about using these modes of construction for our disaster areas, that's part of why we wanted to feature them today. We've got this blistering shortage of just units, home ownership units, rental units, and then And then with the 2 disasters, that has just been exacerbated. And we've got to figure out a way of delivering a lot of units to market a lot faster. And I don't know how we do it without some new construction modes. And I'll stop there.
All right. Well, we will move on then to Adrian Bush with the AHART strategy proposal.
Okay, well, great segue. Stacy, Wendy, Lona, everyone, here we are. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so a little bit about us. At the Homeless and Housing Coalition of Kentucky, we're a statewide advocacy organization. We also provide direct service and rent support to people experiencing homelessness, and our mission is to eliminate the threat of homelessness and fulfill the promise of affordable housing. We also are statutorily authorized to convene and staff the Kentucky Interagency Council on Homelessness. And lastly, we abide by the principles that housing is a human right and that housing is what solves homelessness. Next slide. So when I started at HHCK 6 years ago, I didn't know a whole lot about disaster housing and disaster recovery, but I think the past few years in Kentucky has made us all a little bit more knowledgeable than we probably were or ever wanted to be. So we work pretty closely with the National Low-Income Housing Coalition. They have done a lot with disaster housing specific work, convening a coalition working group, and provide us a lot of good pointers on what to do and what not to do in responding to disasters. Next slide. Okay, so I want to set level set, I guess, with the 2021 disasters, which included flooding in much of the state, as well as tornadoes, also in much of the state, in December last year. So the state is currently doing a community development block grant disaster recovery plan. That plan was developed by the Department of Local Government and has gone through the public hearing and public comment process. And in the next slide, I'm going to go through like how things have changed since November when the public comment process was going on. But before I do that, at the time, we had DLG had estimated that there was a remaining unmet housing need of $110 million. Of the CDBG-DR money available, they proposed to use $40 million of it, about half the allocation, towards housing, which would leave about a gap of at least $70 million to address outstanding housing needs, again, for the 21 disasters. We're not talking about the 22 flooding. Okay, so we had some observations and comments. We typically do have opinions on about everything that happens in the state. And so one of the things that we liked about it was allowing CHODOs to apply directly for new construction funds for single and multifamily. When I say CHODO, talking about community housing development organizations, official designation. Wasn't really sure, it wasn't clear about whether they could apply for repair of owner-occupied homes. Seemed like an oversight. HUD-assisted property data from those disasters was limited as admitted through the plan. And then we were concerned, as I said, we work pretty closely with people experiencing homelessness, and there were some things that we felt could have been in the plan that would specifically address the needs of those folks. So the plan is back at HUD for approval. Next slide. However, also in November, we started to hear rumblings of an additional $49 million that would be added to this 21 disaster grant. And finally, January 18th, 6 days ago, HUD released the federal notice making it official. And so this is just where we are as a housing policy organization. We're not really clear how this impacts the state plan that it is currently sitting at HUD, the approval, or how much additional housing money will be allocated. But regardless, even if they allocated the rest of the money, the $49 million, towards housing, that would still leave a funding gap. Next slide. Okay, so fast forward to the 22 disasters, the flooding in the eastern part of the state. And as FEMA has been in the region and the stuff is kind of winding down, some people are still in appeals process, but for the most part, FEMA's done, right? We know that for housing assistance, the median award was about $4,500. Other needs assistance was a grand total of about $500 as a median award. And then the individuals and households program came in at about $4,600 as the median. Now, I know the difference between median and average. And the average did increase up to $10,000. But when we are talking about $100,000, $200,000 in loss or repairs needed, it doesn't really come close to covering the need, nor is it designed to. Next slide. Okay, and also using the work of Eric Dixon with the Ohio River Valley Institute, who's been tracking this, you can see the property damage, the home damage in particular, the first row, comparing it from the 13 counties to the 4 hardest hit counties of Breathitt, Knott, Letcher, and Perry. Of note, about 85% of folks applying for FEMA assistance reported home damage. Next slide. Okay, so what are we trying to do? We're trying to bridge the gap. We're trying to bridge the funding gap between the amount of money that's been available and what we think will become available, and then also the time gap, because here we are. It's been a year since the tornadoes. It's been over 18 months since the initial disasters in 2021 of flooding, and we're about 6 months out from the major floods in eastern Kentucky. In the meantime, we still have folks in temporary housing, which is good. I'm glad to see that we have folks in temporary housing. We also have a number of folks doubled up. We have folks who may have gone back to a house that isn't safe, or we may have people who may have left the region, right? So, and the number one need that folks are still reporting is the need for a legislative housing response. So what we are asking in consultation with partners such as those in the FAHI network, to various habitat chapters, to the Louisville Urban League and the Urban League in Lexington, providers, strong providers all across the state have said, okay, we need to create a disaster housing trust fund. One that is flexible, one that is modeled, but not as strict as the existing Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That does not imply that the existing AHTF is strict. I'm just saying what we heard over and over and over again was flexibility, flexibility, flexibility. So to do very similar things such as emergency home repair, new home construction, multifamily capital repairs, I would add multifamily development, technical assistance, including housing counseling, and then lastly, we need to scale it up if Kentucky Housing Corporation is going to administer a disaster housing trust fund. They need the money to actually administer it. Next slide. Okay, so we are asking in this regular session for $150 million to create this disaster housing trust fund. We don't suffer any illusions that that would be enough to address the needs that have been uncovered by the disasters. So we would be following up this request with an additional $150 million in the 24 regular session for things to do like finishing repairs, investing again in housing counseling, especially to mitigate predatory actors, and expediting large redevelopment projects. And the idea here really is that we have some sort of mechanism that the legislature can respond when we do have disasters, both past and present and future. So that when the governor calls the legislature into a special session, we're not all wandering around saying, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? We know what needs to be done, right? So next slide. All right. Again, this is something, one of the lessons I have learned from the pandemic, and lessons I think a lot of folks have taken, it's just if we want to be able to respond to sudden changes in conditions, we need to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place, like ongoing. And so by creating a disaster housing trust fund and scaling up the existing affordable housing trust fund, we can start to make a dent in our existing affordable housing crisis, as well as respond to folks in their time of need quickly. Next slide. All right, so our campaign has the following folks on the right hand of the slide on it already, but we are a big tent and we are always welcoming more people. So if you haven't signed on already and have the ability to do so, please do. For those who are in the campaign, we do have a social media toolkit. We're also happy to help you schedule a meeting with your legislators. We're having a breakfast on February 21st. And that is me again, Adrienne Bush at abush@hhck.org. And this is how you get up with me again. That's what I have. Happy to take any questions.
I am wondering if this committee might entertain the idea of signing on to this initiative. I don't know what thoughts are from members about that.
That's a great idea. I'll make that motion if we want to do that. This is Becky Rohrig.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion about it? So I'll just go ahead. Did somebody have a comment or discussion?
How much are the administrative costs?
We would recommend that any legislation for a disaster housing trust fund allocate 10% towards administrative costs. So whatever 10% of 150 million is.
Just so you know, right now, KHC gets $0 to administer about $6 to $7 million of affordable housing trust fund dollars every year. We eat that cost. We do allow our program implementers, so nonprofits, to take 7.5%. That's what's in the statute, so that's the most they're allowed, and that's really not sufficient.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Bev, thank you for making the motion. If it is the will of the group, I'm happy to add on HPAC as a signer, and I appreciate your vote of confidence.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, the motion carries then. Thanks, Adrienne.
Thank you for having me.
Sure thing. We're running short on time. Kelly Reynolds, we have the weatherization program update.
Sure, and I can be fast, I think. So no news on the bill funding. We have resubmitted our state plan the second time, met with Department of Energy today. We have some kind of progressive, innovative ideas in this state plan. And so they've really been bouncing those around their headquarters. I think they are going to go. I got that message from our project officer today, but he needs to reject my state plan one more time and let me tweak some language in some of those more innovative ideas. So, he thinks we'll probably get it before May or June. So let's hope. Fingers crossed. All right. We will begin our planning on our formula grant in February. So that's usually when we start planning. We start working on our timelines. We usually have public hearings in April. So kind of work our ways back. The formula grant is due May 3rd. So just know that's out there. And then we are starting to do some multifamily work. We are actually partnering with Becky Roerig to do one of her units. And it's a historical property, so it's even more fun. But we are working on that right now. They're working on doing applications so we can get those into our software system to even see what needs to be tweaked in our software system to make this work so we can just start doing multifamily weatherization. So she's being a really good sport about this. It's taken a long time. And she's kind of our guinea pig. So that in lots of different ways to work on processes and procedures. So right now, one of the things that we have out to our subgrantees is this whole idea of multifamily weatherization. So we put it to a vote. I still have got to tally up the votes, but we are trying to determine if they as subgrantees, we have a few subgrantees, they want to do multifamily weatherization, they want to learn it, do it so that they are equipped to do this longer than our bill money lasts. However, we have some subgrantees who don't think they have capacity. And so right now what we are trying to determine is, should we just make a new subgrantee, award a new subgrantee money that their specialty is multifamily weatherization, and there is one of those that exists in the nation. I know Tennessee is looking to contract with them. They've contracted with a couple of other states, Missouri, Arizona. So we have had some precursor conversations with them, or our subgrantees could continue to administer all the weatherization dollars and then use that outside agency as a subcontractor and to do their multifamily weatherization. So we're still trying to tease that out, what is best for the network and for the program. So those are kind of our updates. Are there any questions? Concerns? Anybody have any feelings on multifamily weatherization? We're also working with the State Energy Program Office. They are getting a lot of money as well in connection with just a lot going on with energy efficiency in the nation. So we are working with them on how we can kind of partner our programs together and lay them side by side so we can make the best use of both the dollars that are coming our way.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yep, that's it.
And then the focus group report out. Kay, did you want to take the lead on this, or do you want me to talk about it first?
Well, yeah, you can certainly mention kind of how we got here. That would be great.
So at our last meeting, we revisited the Housing Policy Advisory Committee's charter and priorities. There is actually kind of a lengthy list of rules and responsibilities. And so there was a suggestion to focus on perhaps certain priorities for the 2023 year. So we did an exercise where everybody got 3 dots, and we had all of the priorities listed on the wall, and everyone took a few minutes to mark what their priorities were. And so the 3 that came up most were housing supply shortages, disaster preparedness, and barriers to home ownership. And so Kay and I talked about it and wanted to suggest to everyone that rather than changing any of the focus areas, it certainly seemed as though the focus areas all still held importance. And so not to take any of them away, we didn't want to amend the charter, but simply that we might write a prelude statement to the priorities that for the 2023 year, that these 3 areas be our focus areas, and that is where we would concentrate our energies.
Yeah, and if you all, as you remember, what we kind of looked at was, 7 buckets. And so how we got here again was we started out during some intentional conversations with nonprofits, community service providers, and landlords and tenants, understanding kind of what are the needs and what are the barriers and what are issues that are more urgent and immediate at the top of the list as we look ahead in 2023. And, in some of the priority work group sessions, we really, again, wanted to look at how do we refresh the current focus and priorities that we now hold. Do we need to add any? Do we need to broaden the scope? But how do we kind of make some target areas? And so from the activity, again, that we did in the last segment, we took that long list and we shortened it down into buckets. And so those buckets included, of course, the housing supply, disaster relief, barriers to home ownership, as well as eviction, homelessness, advocacy, and economic development. And so those, all still fell in buckets of concern, but what we wanted to do was really highlight and look at those that are immediate and urgent. And so this slide, of course, highlights those focus areas for 2023, being the housing supply shortages, disaster preparedness, and barriers to home ownership. So with these candid conversations combined with our global pandemic, economic uncertainty, and major declared disaster events, what we've learned through candid conversations, listening to partners, landlords, and community service providers is that we really want to be, again, more intentional and sharpen the focus on these primary areas. So what I've noted here, as we look ahead, we will require a careful balance, again, of looking at near-term focus, agility. We've talked a lot about flexibilities, still thinking long-term with sustainability options. But as we've looked at today, embracing diverse alternatives toward more equitable and sustainable development. And so that is what the conversation has been about today, looking at options such as manufactured homes, looking at all these activities in which we can now focus on how do we increase the housing supply shortage. What you all will see coming ahead is we will continue to focus on these areas and bring topics to the committee and to the agenda that really address and are very intentional and focusing on the immediate needs of our communities. Beth, did I leave anything out? Was there anything else that we wanted to mention? I think this was a great conversation, starting here looking at manufactured homes, looking at our programs, looking at the funding, and how to stretch those dollars at the end of the day to just get more people housed and be responsive in responding to the community needs at this given time. And that is all that I have. There is a business item. I think Wendy wanted to make one announcement from the governor's recent news.
Yeah, I just want to let you all know, because over the last couple of years, we have kept you updated on the Healthy at Home eviction relief program, which offered pandemic rent and utility assistance. We stopped accepting new applications on Friday at 5 p.m. Sadly, that funding is winding down. We recently were required by Treasury to give $38 million to Louisville and almost $16 million to Lexington. That's good for them. That keeps their local work going. But it meant we had to kind of reshuffle our plans for those dollars. And we're going to focus the funds. We're still processing applications, even still paying on some Louisville ones that we had in our queue already. But we will soon shift to focusing on folks who are in the courts, who are really facing imminent eviction, as well as making grants to some of our homeless partners who are trying to keep people housed or get people rehoused, and still funding some legal services across the state. What I want to say is the 3 grantees, Louisville, Lexington, and Kentucky, we did avoid a pandemic tidal wave of evictions. It stinks to see this abundance and flexibility wind down because it has been so useful and helpful, and we have felt pretty useful to the Commonwealth during the pandemic. But we have always kept you all kind of updated on that program, and it is winding down. Thanks.
Thanks, Wendy. Are there any suggestions for agenda topics for the next meeting? Any ideas? If anyone thinks of any, I'd be happy to get them, or you could send them to Kay. So until next quarter, I guess we bid adieu. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
This is Zach Worsham. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Zach. A second?
This is Logan Haynes, second.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and see you next quarter.
Thank you.
Thank you.